think that made me look for her even more, because when I thought, how could any mother give their child away?
Yeah.
So that sort of was the catalyst that pushed me forward. And part of me, I wanted to make sure she was okay as well.
Yeah.
But she had got married and immigrated to Canada, and she had 2 other kids. And it's almost like she didn't understand my pain, which I resented a lot. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, for some people, it really was a joyful experience for them, but for me, it just wasn't.
And how did you manage that? I mean, you said you went drinking again afterwards, of course. Did you spiral downwards after that?
Yeah, yeah. I ended up really, really depressed. Ended up
No.
that,
Mm.
yeah. Ended up very depressed. Ended up looking for love in all the wrong places and all the wrong relationships as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now there was a time, of course, just before that, where you said that this guy was preaching. He was as if he was speaking into your life,
yeah,
but you seemed to reject it at the start.
yeah,
And you said you had a Bible just for show, but then you said about he spoke to you about being hot or cold,
yeah,
and you wanted to be hot. Was that the point in your life when you actually said, "Look, I want to be with you, Jesus," or did
yeah,
it happen later on for you?
yeah. No, that was then. That was then.
Hmm. And tell us what happened, and when you made that decision.
So I went home. That I was very, very angry. The fact that the man had came up to me and said that. Um, it was almost he done it in love. He was lovely. He was a lovely man. He was like he ended up becoming like a father to me. Um, but at that point, he was a stranger, and I
Hmm.
just remember thinking, well, do you know that is me. That is my double life. I come here on a Sunday. I play the piano. I do all the things that my parents expect me to do and the people in the church expect me to do. But I leave here on a Sunday, I just live my own way from 1 week to the other,
Hmm.
just doing my own thing. And I remember going home that night, and it was almost like I was scared. I was terrified. I was thinking, "Oh, that man was right. I am living a double life. I've got 1 foot in this church, and I've got 1 foot in doing my own thing."
Hmm.
And when I've read that verse in the Bible, either you be hot or cold, but don't be lukewarm. And I realised that was my standing, my spiritual position at that time. That's where I was. I was
Hmm.
lukewarm, and I would have been spewing out of God's mouth. And I remember at that moment in time that I actually surrendered my life to God, and I lived for Him, and I was actually, yeah, I just lived for Him. But what caused me to go back the way was the disappointment with meeting my mother. But through all
So,
that, I
mm,
realised people can't heal you.
so when you've had this experience, did you tell your adoptive parents what happened to you and how you came through and that you
Yeah.
accepted Jesus? And how did they react?
Oh, they were over the moon.
Hmm.
They were over the moon. They were absolutely over the moon.
I like what you said about you found out that it wasn't a tiptoe through the tulips. I like that saying.
Yeah.
And the people that you ran with. Now, did you share that then with the people that you ran with? As you said, did you share your newfound salvation?
Absolutely. I told everybody I was running about the scheme where I lived in. I would take
Hmm.
people to church with me. Oh yeah, I ran about. I mean, I was bold. I wasn't ashamed.
And how did you manage to end up with Teen Challenge?
So my friend, who was a heroin addict, he went into Teen Challenge,
Hmm.
and it was through him going in there that's where the connection with me was.
Did you volunteer to go down there, or were you invited?
So I went down and stayed with I was invited by a family from Glasgow, and the man there had done the Teen Challenge programme as well.
Hmm.
So I went down there and stayed down there.
So, but you said that didn't turn out too good for you as well, mind when you
No,
fell in love down there.
I ended up in a relationship again, and I
Hmm.
ended up pregnant, and then on my own.
When you were telling that story about that, I felt very emotional myself actually. But how you said that people rejected you in a sense, and
Yeah,
you said that some of those people in the church. Now, where are your recusers today? Then are they still in the church, or have they reconciled with you, or
yeah, they've reconciled.
and was that hard for you?
No, no, it wasn't hard at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was
You said, of
actually,
course,
it's
go on.
actually something that I really welcomed.
So then you said you went back to church, of course, and you had a few rejections, but you started a house group.
Yeah.
Tell us how that came about, and what did you intend to do with the house group?
So the house group was through a woman I had met in a church, and she'd said that there was a man from Ireland coming. She was doing his itinerary, and he had came, and I'd got some friends round to the house, and he came and spoke that night,
Right.
and that was birthed. Then we realised that we were a group of people who had the same vision, the same mission to reach the lost.
And is that house group still going today, or has it grown, or
No, no, that all get washed away through my mistakes, basically. Um, no, and then the
that's
people
okay?
have moved on and stuff like that.
I mean, of course, there are seasons in people's life as well. Of course, you said you had this inherent desire to follow Jesus,
Yeah,
and you started praying with two old ladies. As
yeah.
well, people know only normally do a lot of praying. Tell us how that came about, and what was achieved from the prayer.
So every Wednesday, one of those old ladies was someone who turned her back on me as well, and God had reconciled that relationship.
Excellent.
And we had began to pray. There was just such a need in our area. There wasn't a lot of churches around. There wasn't any prayer meetings around. There wasn't, and we had this desire that God would open up where we live in this area of
Hmm.
Maryhill, a place there was that many people dying of drugs. We were losing people left, right, and centre. There was shootings and all sorts of stuff, and they would come up to my wee flat, this flat I'm in just now, and they would come up on a Wednesday night, and the three of us would fast on the Wednesday, and the three of us would sit around my table. My son would make, he was only a wee boy, he'd make digestive biscuits with jam and icing.
Very nice.
They would come up and we would sit and pray, and God would open a door for, and I believe it was the prayers that opened the door of Jumping Jack's outreach.
Excellent. So this desire you had in your heart, and did you have a dream to do something big or small, or did you have anything at all in your mind that you wanted to do for the Lord?
I
No.
just knew that he had I just knew that he had called me to reach the lost.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how that was going to transpire. I didn't know if I was going to be involved in a work like Teen Challenge, but never in a million years would I have thought that he would have used me to start a work.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really love the story you told about the building. It was very, very. Yeah, it took a lot of faith, from what I can see, that you really believe that the Lord wanted you to have the building. And when you told, he said that the guy gave you the keys. So, how did you feel initially when you got the keys of the building, Jumping Jacks?
I was a bit stunned, but I
Mm-hmm.
knew I knew that God had spoken, so that was my confidence was in that.
Yep.
Didn't know if it was going to be just for one night or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any money to pay for it. And to this day, the publican 16 years later has never took one bit of rent off us.
Wow. Tell us a little bit then about how long it took you to really build it up and to get it turned into what you wanted it to be and what you wanted to achieve in there. Tell us how long that took you, and how the building of it, basically.
So the building still is a derelict pub,
Mm-hmm.
and it's set out like a church, like a theatre style. And
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted the gospel to be preached. Some people came with ideas saying, oh, get a snooker table in and get this and it'll attract people in. And I always thought, well, Jesus said if he is lifted up, he will draw all
Mm-hmm.
men. So I thought, no, it's got to be the gospel. So I came up a lot of opposition with people's different ideas, but I just knew. So when we have a time of singing, and then we always have somebody sharing their testimony, their story, just like what I've done tonight. And then we always have a gospel message. We've never done any fundraising, we've never took a collection, we've never asked anybody for anything, and that's the way it was. God had spoke to me quietly, and because I thought it was one thing saying, "What about the light?" And he replied, and I said, "What about finances? What about the bills?" And again, I never heard. It was almost like I had a knowing within me. I wasn't to ask anybody for anything. I was to completely look to him. And in 16 years, the nature of the people that come are very poor. A lot of people are in addiction. A lot of people are homeless, just out of prison, coming using food banks. We've also got farmers that come, social workers. We've got but you would never know. We're just in this old derelict pub, just as one people, and the gospel's preached. We've seen incredible things happen. We've seen, as I said, hundreds, if not thousands, of people come under the sound of the gospel. Some get gloriously saved and set free.
You called it a derelict pub. Did you get some people to help you in somewhat refurbishing it a little bit to make it,
No,
usable and what have you?
it's
No.
not been. No, it's not. We clean it. We've cleaned it. We got Rent-A-Kill in, pest control in to get rid of the rats, and I think it's been painted a couple of times. Somebody once said you're itching to get in and scratching when you come out. But, yeah, it's very raw, very real.
And so, tell us what a typical day would be like then. Is it open every day, for
No,
instance?
we're only open on a Tuesday night. So on a Tuesday night, we do the Teen Challenge studies,
Okay.
which is how do I know I'm a Christian, faith
Mm-hmm.
towards God, obedience to man, attitudes. We go through the studies. We
Mm-hmm.
have a time of singing. Then I have a time study. Then we have a time of discussion. It's very, very real, very
Mm-hmm.
raw. We deal with real life problems, and then we have tea and coffee and cake and biscuits and stuff. Then on a Friday, we're back on a Friday night, and the same. We have a time of singing, and we always have somebody sharing their story, and then we have a gospel message, and then a time of singing. Then people can come for prayer or come for help or
Excellent.
apply for rehab and things like that.
And how many people do you think have been through the doors since you started 16 years ago?
It's thousands.
Wow. Are they regular people, or do people when they get their life changed, do
Yeah.
they go somewhere else? And
So we would signpost people if they wanted to go to a church. Some people make jumping jacks their church. Some people don't feel that they fit,
mm-hmm.
like as a new Christian, into the conventional church. So they're quite
Right.
happy to do our stuff Tuesday, Friday. Some people go on. We've got a girl just now who came. She was a heroin addict. She's now on mission in the Philippines.
Wow.
Um, we've got people that are in the leadership academy that came in the community. We've got a girl who's we've got people that just go on to Bible college and things like that as well, getting
Mm-hmm.
degrees, and their whole lives are completely changing.
Now you've also working with Jumping Jacks, of course, working with the community. You've also managed to. You said you manage 2 food banks. Tell us a little bit about the food banks that you manage, and how did you
So
get into that?
we work under one of a local minister who was a heroin addict who done the Teen Challenge programme as well. He was a minister locally, he's no longer there, and he had made me his community outreach worker. So I worked there for a while, and through that we done alpha courses. And his church ran a food bank under
Mm-hmm.
the Trussell Trust, so I managed that. Then I got made redundant from there, and the Trussell Trust, other food bank, employed me there. So, and we've now started another one. So there's two. I do client support and I do the manager's role as well. So
And
through
just
that,
tell us. Go on. I'm sorry. I was going to say, just tell us a little bit of what's a day like in a food bank. How difficult is it for people, and how for you to get some food into the food bank?
so into the food bank. So we've got trolleys, pick-up points. People are very generous, and so all the food gets. We rely on donations. And the people who use our food banks we're a referral-based agency only. So they'll be referred by their GP, Citizens Advice Bureau, Money Matters, criminal justice. We help people coming out of prison, refugees, asylum seekers. There's a whole mixed bag. Supported accommodation, people come, so they get a staple diet for 3 days. So we are
Right.
placed the tin emergency food bank, and then because it's a referral, we can see what's going on, and then my job is to signpost them for further help.
Right. Now, you mentioned you have a great husband. Tell us a little bit about how you met your husband, Gary. Tell us about that, a little bit about that.
So Yerrick, I met Yerrick in Jumping Jacks Outreach. He was invited by a mutual friend to come along, and I wasn't really interested in any relationship at this time, and neither was Yerrick. And Yerrick was a heroin addict, crack cocaine addict, and he had done a programme like Teen Challenge called The Haven, and he had came along, and it was some of the guys that were coming into Jumping Jacks. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to go and visit them myself, so Yerrick would come with me, and I think very early on we realised that something was developing between the two of us. So that's how we met, and we got engaged on the March, and we get married in October. So we minister hand in hand.
Wow. Now, it's nice to get a compliment from your wife, by the way, when you said he was a good husband. That's nice. I did want to ask you because just to go back to your mother, have you spoken to your mother, your real mother, since that encounter?
So she had put me in touch with my real father.
Right.
And I had a relationship with him up until he passed away. And I spoke to her. When he passed away, she came over from Canada, but her family that live in Glasgow, she came over to visit them, and I had met up with her then. But there just didn't seem to be a connection at all. And
Right.
since then, about I think 5 years ago, she passed away.
Oh.
So
And just finally to ask you about your sister. You said that you had a sister as well that was adopted. Did you manage to preach the gospel to your sister, or was she the same as you, a double life, or was she a good Christian?
no,
Or
she was a good Christian. She was a good Christian.
how did you know she was a good Christian?
By the way she lived her life. Yeah.
And do you have any plans for the future going forward with Jumping Jacks, or anything like
So
that?
the building is, I think they're going to demolish the building.
Okay.
I think the local housing association is making it a compulsory purchase. So we're basically just in the hands of them. So we'll be there until they tell us we can't be there, and then we're just looking to God. If he wants it to continue, we just believe that he'll open the door for us.
Now, I also believe you do some prison ministry as well. Is that correct? Tell us
Yeah.
about that. How did you get into the prison ministry?
So they had heard about Jumping Jacks. A new women's prison had started. It just opened up just down the road from Jumping Jacks. It's a training for freedom. It's an open prison. And I was invited along to go and see them. And they got the prisoners in to meet me, and then the prisoners requested that I would go back. And I went back, and then the prison actually asked me, did I want to become a partner? So they said they didn't want me just to be invited in. They wanted me to create my own personality within the prison system. So I've been doing that for some time now.
And when you first went to prison, were you a little bit scared?
No.
Were you not?
I was very excited.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you've made lots of decisions, Michelle, in your life, some good and some bad.
Yeah.
But on the program here, we always ask our guests this one particular question, okay? So for you, what was the best decision you ever made in your life?
The best decision I ever made in my life was to give my life over to the Lord Jesus Christ.
Thank you so much for speaking to us here at Life Stories Worldwide and telling your story.
Thank
And
you.
with that, I'll bring Alan back in.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George. And thank you so much, Michelle. It's been wonderful
Thank you.
hearing your story. Again, it's been a blessing. I'm sure it's going to help many, many people who are going through difficulties. And may God bless you in the future. May He guide you and direct you in all that you do. And may you see many, many more lives changed. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us today, for hearing Michelle. Please do what Michelle said. Her best decision was to ask Jesus into her life. That's the best decision you could make. You can also go to our website, lifestoriesworldwide.com. There you can find out lots of information about the work we do. You can contact us through that. And if you go to our YouTube channel, Life Stories Worldwide, there you can watch stories from previous Mondays, many, many wonderful stories of all types of people from all over the world. So thank you for being with us. May God bless you. May know the peace of God that passes all human understanding. And may the joy of Jesus fill your heart. Bye, everyone.